Thank you everyone, and welcome to the Amenities Committee of Bexhill-on-Sea Town Council tonight, Wednesday the 2nd of July. And I am sitting here as Chair of full Council because we don't have a Chair of this committee yet, because it's the first Amenities Committee meeting of the calendar of our civic year. So can I remind everyone to turn their phones off or on airplane mode as usual? Thank you. That includes members of the public, and I'm going to swiftly move on to item 1, which is to elect a chair of this committee. Do we have anyone who wishes to be chair of this committee? Councillor Drayson, and I'm going to put my name in the hat as I did it last year, so we have 2 people who wish to be chair. Councillor Drayson, do you have a seconder for standing as? Councillor Byrne. Anybody want to second me? Councillor Howe. So we've got a proposer and a seconder. So it's a straightforward vote of all those in favour of Councillor Drayson, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. All those in favour of me, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. That equals a tie, which means I have the casting vote as incumbent chair. I'm going to give my casting vote to Councillor Drayson. And at that point, I now step to one side and hand the chair over to yourself.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Thank you.
Please remember your name.
Thank you. Sorry. Right, thank you, Councillor Wilson, and thank you, members. Then item 2 is the election of a vice chairman. Do we have any nominations for vice chairman, or who would like to be vice chairman? Councillor Pym, is that you yourself? Thank you.
I wouldn't mind being vice chairman.
Right. Councillor Pym, Councillor Byrne. Anybody else? Do you have a seconder, Councillor Pym?
I don't know yet.
No. Yes.
Yes.
You have a seconder, Councillor Byrne?
It appears I do.
Yes, you do. Right. Remarkably similar to the last vote. A straight vote. I'll do it in the order in which we came. So all those in favour of Councillor Pym, please show. That's 2. All those in favour of Councillor Byrne, please show. That's 4. Thank you. Councillor Byrne is now Vice Chairman of the Amenities Committee. Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Thank you, members. Public participation. There are no members of the public here. Apologies from absence.
Councillor Ruston is on holiday.
Thank you. To receive declarations of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests, Councillor Byrne.
Member of Rother District Council.
And also myself, Councillor Wilson.
Non-pecuniary for item 15B, at which point I will also leave the room.
The bloody hell's 15B?
Okay, thank you. Personal interest.
Yeah.
Thank you. Agenda item 6, there aren't any. Chairman's announcements. So we're on to item 7, the minutes of the 7th of May 2025. To approve those minutes, anyone like to move approval? Councillor Byrne, second. Oh, sorry, do you have a question?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions on there. Just for clarification, really, because I haven't seen the follow-ups to it.
Yeah.
On the... let me look. I did make a note of it. The Delaware Parade lampposts, have we got a further update on that at all? No.
Give us a clue. Oh yes, 762. Yeah, thank you.
There was another one on there, but it seems that
So we had no further.
yes, the Delaware Pavilion. They were going to address our meeting, and they
Right.
were supposed to address this meeting.
Yeah, he wasn't available.
Right. Okay.
And what specifically about the lampposts? Other than the fact that there was no.
We were going to
update.
get an update on the design of the lampposts. They were supposed to be replacing them. Wondered whether we got them. Or
Yeah, no, there's been no movement on that.
not. Okay.
So, thank you. Councillor Byrne, you were moving the minutes. Anyone second the minutes as well? Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Thank you.
There's also-
Did I miss one? Oh, it's right. Thank you. Right, thank you. Agenda item 8, discretionary services, and item A is to review the lease agreement for the Devonshire Square toilets and recommend to full councils, and that was Appendix B circulated. Matters open for discussion.
Yeah.
Yes, Councillor Goss.
I mean, just a few points on it. I mean, one, they've given us only a 10-year lease, which seems pretty short, as they've got a 6-month break anyway. They can throw us out every 6 months if they want to, or within 6 months. And with the work we've put into it, and are continuing, presumably, to maintaining it, it would be nicer if it was somewhat longer. I don't know about 99, but lease status on there is a renew, down as a renewal. It's not a renewal, it's a new lease. These are general points. The landlord has a rolling break with 6 months' notice on the summary. I'm not sure why landlord only, and we shouldn't have the same. Maybe just in case we get out of it. Service charges to pay a contribution to common services. I assume it's all independent power and water and drainage there. Is that known, John, from when they did the works?
What's that, sir? Council?
We've got independent services connected to their metered water, power.
Metered water and power is,
Yeah.
it's paid for by,
So,
by us.
so it's all independent
Yeah.
anyway. So that should come out in the wash. We've got a full repairing obligation, all repairs to be approved. So it's it's just, are we, well I presume we are, under that, liable for all repairs to the external structure as well, which is, might be slightly onerous. I mean, I don't know what the, I mean, it's pretty poor condition that we're taking on, as per the RDC survey some years ago. And it's also said we'll pay a reasonable proportion towards building insurance policies. Normally the external structure is the landlord's, and as tenant, yeah, we've got public liability insurance that they've listed out that we've got to do, and that's reasonable. They've also limited hours of operation.
I thought that was quite strange.
I can't think why they would need to do that. It's not part of the station, and the limit they've got is well within station hours anyway. But so that I would have questioned. I think that's most of it. Most of the heavy stuff is nothing terribly out of the ordinary that I know of. Obviously our lawyers will go through it.
Well, I was going to say, presumably our lawyers have been through this. Right?
Yeah, but if there's any questions you want me to put to them,
Yeah,
you can note them and defer this decision.
yeah, because there was quite a lot there, but I'm just trying to find out if anyone was involved other than you in any discussions about it. I suspect not. Councillor L.
I think we've asked the question a few times to see if we could do some of the works on the outside of the building externally. I'm not sure if those questions were asked and what the answer was, even though it says no structural alterations permitted. And secondly, tenants, it says Bexhill Town Council or a District Council. Is it shared tenancy?
I'd have to check that with the solicitor.
Missed that. See how did
Right.
see? Oh,
Right at the top. I always thought that it was going to be Bexhill Town Council. So,
It's not on
yeah,
the summary.
I missed that.
right at the top.
Very top.
At the top it says tenants, Bexhill Town Council, rather than
Underneath,
council.
underneath their company number.
But on the actual lease, which is, I downloaded it from somewhere,
It does just say.
It
it does just say us.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But it does still cover some of the points that Councillor Goss raised about the 10 years. I'm guessing that's going to come back that was standard, but anyway.
Well, I don't know what RDC had on it. From what we heard, they didn't even have a release on it, they just did it.
I got a feeling they didn't know they had it.
Yep.
But it's been some years.
So we'll come back to that. Councillor Clinton, then Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, the rent on here, are we able to discuss, it says peppercorn, are we able to discuss that openly, what we're paying for rent of that at the moment?
Yeah, it's all public. This is all public. So.
Okay, well, how much are we?
I would have to clarify all of this with the solicitor. I can't answer anything on this at the moment.
Okay.
Peppercorn normally effectively means nothing. I mean,
Yeah,
give
yeah,
it
yeah.
peppercorn if you want.
Or it's a pound, isn't it, or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peppercorn.
Councillor Wilson, Councillor So
Yeah, so
Councillor
the-
Bloom still
The
finished.
other one on there about service charges, pay a contribution to common services. Do we know what contribution that's going to be? Is there a percentage on that?
Yeah, that's what I've put.
Or indeed, from that question of Councillor,
Yeah.
what common services are there? If we're paying for the water, the electricity, and
Waste.
something else, waste,
Yeah.
what's left? What common service is there other than possibly the building, which we've got to repair on, according to this?
It does say NR to confirm, but
Yeah.
I would imagine that it's referring to the fact that perhaps the electricity and the water belong to the station and there's only one lot of metering.
that's
Well,
what.
there's something to be.
That's something we
Checked,
should be
please.
absolutely certain
What
about.
are the
Yeah.
common services?
I can answer that, if
Yeah,
Chair.
thank you.
We have now taken over the water bill maintenance and the electricity, so they all come through us
That's separate metering.
through the RFO, so they're paid.
Separate metering.
paid for by us.
Wonderful.
Nothing to do with
Okay.
Southern Rail or anyone.
So the follow-up from that is, as it says, network rail to confirm, what are the common services they're talking about?
Yeah.
Maybe there aren't any and they didn't
Yeah,
know.
there might be, yeah, and that's a standard thing to cover their mistake. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. I would suggest that there wasn't a lease in place before. This is a brand new lease, which is a standard lease that Network Rail has come up with. The thing that really does concern me is the reasonable proportion towards the insurance, and we have to take it all over. Generally speaking, the owner of a business property will cover the insurances, and on a full repair and lease, that would then make us responsible for the roof, which I don't have an issue with because it is a full repair and lease. But we do have to be mindful of item 8B. We won't be able to progress 8B until we have the lease in place. And we've just got it to the point where the internals are right, and if we ask too many questions about this that could be unravelled, like the length of the lease, the peppercorn rent, and all those which are really valid questions, it will hold up the signing of the lease, and then that will hold up item 8B, because we won't be able to do it until we've got the lease in place. So we have to be mindful that it will delay things and cost more money with solicitors' questions, etc., etc.
Possibly be his cart before the horse.
Possibly, but it would be a shame if we can't get the aesthetics of the building looking nice when we've got the internals looking really nice. And I don't, whilst I observe a 10-year lease, I think that we are the first, this is the first time Bexhill Town Council have been a tenant of Network Rail, and quite often you do have to prove your substance and worth to any. So I think we could easily get around that by saying we'll accept the 10-year lease, but in 10 years we would expect a longer lease. That would be the way to do it. I very much doubt that we'll get a longer than 10-year lease first up.
And I know, to pick up on Councillor Goss's point, we had those same questions when we were talking about Rother toilets, of the, well, we could do all that work and they can come in and say, thank you very much, we'll have it back now. And I'm guessing that's a sort of a fairly standard thing in a contract, but that's again a question just to confirm.
Yeah,
Like you were saying, why
I
can't we give the 6 months notice to,
yeah,
we don't want it anymore because of various problems. So there is that question about the lease.
Can I make a
Yes, you
recommendation?
can.
Can I just recommend that you guys come up with a list of things that you want me to ask, and then you may need a further decision?
Yes.
I can put these down on a bit of paper and
Yeah.
on an email
Right.
to you.
If
But
I could ask you to put that down and circulate it to us, and we can add to it, so that Joey doesn't get duplications.
Yes.
You know, and we'll reply all or something to get it into Joe with all of our comments.
Would you want that externally of this meeting, or would you want that via this meeting?
If you have any questions that I can add now, as opposed to later, I would prefer that, because obviously sometimes things do get lost. But if you have anything in the meantime that you want to add, we don't. It's just asking questions. I've got no problem with you emailing.
I don't know what was recorded of the long waffle that I gave.
I've only got the question about common services.
Okay. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
as Councillor Drayson said, I'll type it out and send it round to everybody, and they can come in and add what.
Isn't it all recorded?
It
That's
is
very true.
recorded, that's true. Even if you pick the recording, I think it would still help if we could let you know any other questions, but it's sort of before next week probably, or before, you know, next Wednesday, so that Joey can get on it and do it.
Can I ask one more thing of John? Have they given you the health and safety file for it?
I have all the health and safety
Yeah.
files for
Okay.
all the toilets.
Because then I want a copy.
Yeah, from another district council.
Okay.
And I suppose it's probably, as you're here, John, for me to ask, is there anything we're missing that you think we
No, not really.
won't be covered by us just putting the list of questions in?
Not at the moment. You all know, Chair, how the toilets are now
Yeah.
inside.
Lovely.
And as you've already said, 8B, well, I really can't comment on until given licence, but otherwise, yeah. If I can say, the contractors' focus washrooms that have been working on them and now finished found nothing untoward inside or outside the structure of the building, which was including asbestosis or asbestos. So that was a good pointer from your plan.
Thank you, John. Councillor Byrne.
This is really around 8B as well. Given that that toilet block is not really a separate building, I'm thinking of the outside wall. If HGV or something ploughed into it and took out a bit of the footbridge, or are we absolutely certain on the lease as to how much the exterior brickwork we are responsible for? We don't want to go repointing somebody's brickwork when they say no, this is ours. You can't make it look pretty because we own it, and you can't put a design on it. Meanwhile, if it's damaged, we want you to repair it. It strikes me that there might be a bit of an argument in there, and it's as well to get that absolutely defined, because I'm not too sure Southern Rail have ever done this with something that is almost an integral part of their station.
No, and taking your point, if we were talking about an area of land, it would be on a map outlined in red. We need a front view of it outlined in red of what we're responsible for on the outside.
And there is some repointing being done recently. I noticed outside. It looked like fresh mortar.
I think from the point of view of...
There's too much sand in it, I might say.
As far as I could read in the umpteen pages on insurance and that, we are responsible for public liability insurance, which is fair enough, and they are responsible for the building insurance. In fact, I mean, you said, yeah, we'll pay the tenant should pay a reasonable proportion towards building insurance policies taken out by Network Rail. So we don't know what the reasonable proportion is. If it's maybe we're 5% of the station. Because I would have thought they were self-insured, to be honest.
But it would be from the wall of the station all the way.
Well, it should be just that bit, not over to the bridge.
But I take Councillor Wilson's point that we don't want to enter into anything that just kicks it down the road. We want this done and dusted. So
Which brings
I
me
hope...
to my concern is that this agenda item wants us to review it and recommend to full council. And it doesn't sound like we're in any way, shape or form ready to recommend it to full council.
Depends on how quickly we get the responses.
Which take... go on. Yeah.
Do you want Joey to take these down now, or any comments, any other comments down now, so that becomes our recommendation subject to...
I think that's how we have to do it to get it to the next council, otherwise it will be September before
it's subject to sounds pretty good.
So, over to you again then, Councillor Goss.
Oh dear, should have shut up. Okay, on the summary sheet, the first comment was why only 10 years lease? Could it be longer? Yeah. That's under lease term heading. Lease status heading says it's a renewal of a protected lease. Presumably this is actually a new lease. I don't know what the protected lease was. Break clauses heading landlord only, rolling break with 6 months notice. Why landlord only? Could it be tenant as well? Service charge said to pay a contribution to common services, and can then confirm that there are no common services. Under repair, said the tenant is to have a full repairing obligation. Is that for the full external structure? Because the insurance for it is by the landlord.
Can I add in that bit, and also the extent of the responsibility?
Yeah.
The extent of the structure external. And I'm guessing that also covers the bit that faces the railway line,
Yes, I would think so.
not just the frontage.
But yeah, that will be complicated if there's a problem with possessions and things. Under hours of operation, why are hours limited? Can they be set by the tenant? I think the rest is just repeat on that.
Then there was something on the insurance, wasn't there?
Why would we pay the buildings insurance as a tenant?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because the main document seems to imply that we just pay. Well, yeah, it says that we've got to pay public liability insurance, which is normal. It says, yeah, right, tenant will pay a reasonable proportion towards buildings insurance by Network Rail. What is that cost in proportion?
And actually, it's not just what the cost is, why would we pay that? Because most businesses, the landlord pays insurance.
Structure. Yeah.
Because it's them that, this is a lease, they own the building, we just have to maintain it.
Yeah.
That goes back to the question of exactly what is the building.
Yeah. As Sir Byrne says, that will relate to what is the building, extent of the building to be insured.
In fact, the whole of the section on insurance in the lease, paragraph 617, talks about the tenant is forthwith to insure and afterwards keep insured at the tenant's own expense the property from loss or damage. It goes on to such insurance is to be with insurers approved by the landlord in joint names of the landlord and the tenant. For
Which
not less
doesn't
than
tie in
full
with what it says
replacement
on the
cost,
price sheet.
which is at odds with what you said on the summary. It was talking about
Yeah,
a
it
contribution towards.
says, yeah, reasonable proportion towards the building insurance policies taken out by Network Rail.
Yeah. So that's the question of, because there's a
Who is
distinct
insuring?
difference between reasonable proportion and responsible at our own expense.
I think they'd probably plucked a lease off the shelf that's normally for something standalone, like repurposing a signal box, which I know they've done with quite a few, or the cottage next to a level crossing. But because this is an integral part of the station, we're tripping up on all sorts of things that the lease doesn't really specify yet. And I would imagine they didn't realise that when their legal department was handing out the lease.
Yeah, I think there's...
Wouldn't you think so?
There should, I think as has been said before, there should really be a lease plan with it, with a red line showing the extent of our liability.
Yeah, because the building isn't defined really in the way that a signal box or a whatever would be.
That's what
Yeah, one aspect I'd like to ask through this process, and it will have a knock-on effect to our contract we've got with our cleaners, because it says in our covenants, it says the tenant must deep clean the premises regularly, Network Rail to confirm how often. Do we know how often they want us to deep clean, and will that affect our contract that we've got already with our cleaners?
I'll have to ask.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. It sounds to me like something we should specify, because we'll know about the use and we'll know about the standard we want to set.
Well,
therefore,
they confirm how often. That's what it says.
They're also quite detailed about decorating it every third year and every fifth year.
Yeah.
So,
But
Councillor Wilson.
I think it's a very difficult situation, and I would just flag that there probably hasn't been a lease before. It would get to the point of asking too many questions.
Yeah.
It would delay lots of other things and potentially antagonise Network Rail. Then we won't have a lease, and they'll say you're not having it. We just spent a lot of money on doing the toilets.
Yeah.
So this has to be really sensitively handled, which is why we have solicitors.
Yes.
The red line plan, you won't get one of them unless it's a separate land registry plot.
Yeah.
So you won't ever get a red line map with it, because it's part of the station. It has been for many years. Network Rail really have expressed no interest in it, and whilst I'm agreeing that all of these questions that are raised are very valid, they're also blockers and getting in the way of what we want to do with assets and facilities within our town, and it could go badly wrong if we're not very, very careful. And I think we should just pick the real big ticket items, and all the rest are, like the deep clean as an example. If they want to come and tell us when we've got to deep clean it, fine. If they don't, we'll clean it in accordance with.
Yeah.
We can pick all those sorts of things up afterwards. They're all very valid points, but they shouldn't get in the way of getting this lease sorted out. The peppercorn, whether it's £1 or £100, it doesn't matter.
But I take your point back, because inside is very definable.
Yes.
We've done inside.
Yes.
Outside needs to be
It
at
does.
a limit.
But let's not.
But not, we shouldn't lose it. Oh yeah, we shouldn't lose it through asking questions, but there's questions we can ask, presumably our solicitors first of all.
Yeah,
And
I think
they can tell us, oh, don't worry about that one, don't worry about that one, worry about that one.
Network Rail, I mean, things like how often you clean it, that yes, is
Yeah.
not a major point. And
Yeah.
let that go. In terms of doing leases, they do thousands of leases
Yeah.
every day because of updating all the shop units
Yeah.
and whatever on stations
True.
and all
Yeah.
this. So, I mean, I think they're probably easy to discuss things with.
Probably the shop at Coodon Beach has exactly the same lease.
Yeah.
So anything like pick out the big ones from there. No, I think it's fairly.
Yeah.
Don't talk about the rent. Peppercorn rent is peppercorn rent.
Yeah, that's a peppercorn. No, that is literally.
I think the biggest one is the clarity over the roof, personally.
Is the roof and the extent of our responsibility of
We know
the
where we
external
stand with-
responsibility.
We
Is
know
the,
where we stand with water and that type of stuff because we're aware of that.
if the answer comes back 10 years, it's because we always do 10 years. Okay, we'll see in 11 years' time what it's like.
I would also
won't.
mention that they are not too hot on pursuing a lot of these, redecorate every 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing's theoretically renewal of a predicted lease from 1986, which that probably hasn't been painted since 1986.
No.
And the other thing is trying to do that if there is painting required. And there were some windows, I think, overlooking the station is.
I think
not
it's probably
an easy
the
task.
extent of our liability on the building itself, externally, roof and all four, well, 3 sides. Well, no, it's a 4 side inside, isn't it? And query over the 6 month is that why haven't we got a get out clause? But I suspect that's them protecting their bit. But it does seem that if it all goes horribly wrong for us, that we should be able to leave it for some reason. I can't see how it would go horribly wrong.
No,
Oh, I wish you hadn't said that.
just
No, well, I can't see
equal
it.
rights.
Yeah. Okay. So, we're going to ask the clerk to ask those questions and come back with those answers and add them to our recommendation to full council that we recommend this, but here's the information that we ask, because it doesn't follow that full council might still have questions themselves.
Do we want the clerk to put those questions to the lawyers who are going through
Yeah.
this thing and then
Yeah.
see what they come back with?
Yeah.
But in the
But to
meantime,
add
we
those
subject to that, we would
questions
recommend
to
to
it,
full
yeah.
council.
I think so. Is that?
You want to, does that need
Yeah, shall I propose that? Anyone want to
Yeah.
second it? All those in favour of that, please show. Thank you. That's unanimous. 8B. Got a feeling we
kind of did that.
can't do it, but I'm almost thinking we should say, please don't seek any quotes until we've sorted out 8A. Because this says no quotes are being sought.
If they're being sought, continue seeking them.
I,
No point stopping that process. So
Quotes, by all means.
Yeah. Quote ideas. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're noting that then. Yeah. Thank you. Item 9, community safety matters.
Of course it does.
To note, the committee have not yet carried out a review of the existing potential CCTV over the next 3 years in collaboration with Sussex Police, local ECSO, local service comms and possibly other interested parties in the town, and meeting pending. So I'm noting it, but I'm going to ask some questions. Councillor Flynn.
yeah, has the clerk got any recommendations as how they feel that we could take this matter further? I mean, I'm looking sort of September, October time for any meetings. Would it be a working party? Will it just be a group reporting back to this committee? How should we structure this?
So is that similar?
No,
Okay.
I just want to remind the committee that that was my motion that went to full council around about February, and the agreement was that so long as something was done in the next 3 years for a review of it, so we don't actually have to do anything, it's just on the agenda to remind people that, and maybe there should be a date as to when that motion was raised,
Yeah.
and I believe it was February of this year, so we have a lot of time. My principle was, as we are now responsible for CCTV, we don't know with the change in society and behaviour within the town whether the CCTV that we pay for are in the right place.
Yeah.
So we should talk to people, seek advice, and then that extended, because I spoke to the previous clerk about this, and there was loads of other CCTVs that Borough have information on that we weren't aware of. It's not just the 9 or 10 that we pay for. So there's a big piece of investigative work, which is why it's a massive project in its own, and with devolution, as I raised the motion, I have no issue to leave this for at least a year because there's too much else going on, but it's something that has to be done.
Right, so I'll come back to the question for the clerk then. Any ideas?
I can give you, Chair, what I know thus far, and yes, Councillor Wilson's right. We have taken over, we have 9 public-facing CCTV cameras in the Bexhill area. Don't ask me where they are at the moment, so I haven't got the list in front of me, but I can tell you that. I have expressed an interest to Sussex Police Acting Inspector Amanda Hart, who attended a meeting with myself and a former clerk about 4 months ago with a member of Rother District Council. I have to say, to be fair, very unhelpful and lack of interest, really. I have since, in fact last week, contacted Amanda Hart again to ask her to come forward, speak to me about any help we can give them or any suggestions we can give them, or they can give us, as to where CCTV cameras should or could be put in place. We have the money to do it in the budget. The only 2 suggestions thus far I've had are from the Edgerton Park. There was allegedly Operation Quackdown some time ago, where it was felt that the waterfowl were being interfered with, shot at, molested, whatever the case may be. And again, I'm waiting for the CCTV operators to come to me so we can have a meeting and we can go forward with that. And the other issue was whether we could go into the Polegrove and have one put up there to cover the cricket ground, cricket area and the bowls clubs. But up until now, those are the only 2 that have been put forward. Anything else in the town, it seems Sussex Police are, shall I say, dragging their heels. But I am on the case and I will keep pursuing Inspector Hart until I get an answer. But that's all I can say to you, Council.
It really is, Chair, a massive piece of work because it's not just like the CCTV on the Devonshire Square toilets, but they're not part of the ones that we pay for and look after. So who looks after the other CCTV?
Well,
and it needs a real investigation from lots of authorities that are dealing with Bexhill to find out where they are, who looks after them, how we can better benefit, because we don't know whether they're in the right place.
And also, one would expect, but I doubt the police know where every set of even private cameras around this.
Let alone new developments, let alone the new Sidley hub that's going in Canada Way. There's 2 in Sidley High Street. There's not one down the recreation ground where most of the damage is done. So there's lots of discussions that have to be happening, which is why it was said over 3 years.
Councillor Plym.
With that in mind then, would it be wise to ask our officer to report back at our next meeting with a view of looking to see whether it's possible to join all these people together and continue with the motion?
Yes, I was going to add to that. And is there anything we can do to help him get that and get some interest?
I hate to say this, but if this was Rother, we'd be talking about a strategy that covers CCTV and maps out how we liaise with the police and how we liaise with other maybe sports clubs or whatever. I know that again it'll be a massive piece of work, but I think in our own interest, over a 3-year period, we might well come up with a CCTV strategy. Then, any time there was an extra CCTV camera in the town, we already have something like this is owned by so and so. Therefore it slots into our strategy there.
I suspect a strategy will grow from this because at the moment we don't know where what the cameras do
Yeah.
and what the police want.
Yeah.
And once we get to the stage where we say X, Y, and Z, and the police say you can't do that,
Yeah.
we'll come up with a strategy.
Provided we don't let the production of the strategy stop us doing anything on the way.
So we'll note that
Yeah.
the mountain's still pending and encourage John in his endeavours, please.
To be honest.
There you go.
It seems to be one-sided at the moment from
Yeah.
our part, but we are pursuing it.
It sounds like it's in good hands to me.
Thank you, Councillor.
Agenda item 10, Town Accessibility Working Group. I gather we need a new group because it's a new year. I've got to check, is this, well, no, because we could do all the same people again, but does this have to be people from this committee? That's my question.
The three that are currently on it aren't on this committee.
Right,
If that's the answer to your
good,
question.
No, I am. I'm one of the three.
yeah. So
It's four.
So I suppose I'm trying to get why this is on our agenda. If it's not specifically for this committee.
It's almost for the full council to agree the formation of an accessibility working group, and
Well,
then, you know,
So for a bit of context, back when we had the C&E committee, this fell under there.
Yeah.
So when the two committees' terms of reference
This
sort
had
of
to go
merged,
somewhere.
this came here. Last year you struggled to find members, so you resolved to put it to full council to find members. The members don't have to come from this committee, but updates do,
Right.
unless you were to take it completely out of this committee and add it to full council.
Well, I'm just thinking specifically last week we heard from a councillor who is very interested on being on this group. So
who happens to be a wheelchair user and
No, I
is
wasn't.
uniquely
he
well
wanted
placed.
to be on this group, and so I wouldn't want to restrict it to this committee.
Did
for
reiterate that early
reason.
today.
So, should we agree to put it to full council to select members of it? Sorry.
Should we agree to put it to full council to select members of it, or to move it completely to full
That was part two. Okay, so first of all, I'll take your first point, and do we have a second of her asking the full council to nominate people for this working group?
Yeah, I'll second
for that. And those in favour?
Whatever, yeah.
Those against? Thank you. And then, to take Councillor Earl's point, but we probably can't decide it because it's not a motion, but should the reports of that working group come to this committee or come to full council? Councillor Flynn.
Yeah, I feel it should still come to this committee because we're dealing with amenities within the town, and no doubt the accessibility working group will be looking at areas like drop curbs, crossings and things like that, which falls under the
And if it
remit.
goes to full council will refer it to this committee. Councillor Wilson.
I just find it very bizarre. We seem to be afraid of actually getting this going, which is why I put my name in the hat. And I was on it and ended up resigning for personal reasons within that group. They have had 2 meetings, but nothing since I resigned. So I suspect that either the people that are on it haven't got the time or inclination to be on that working group, but this council, that full council, needs to decide whether it really wants to, as most will remember, I've managed to get some money into the precept for this year that this group can recommend spending. It's the first time we've got to that stage, and since I walked away, nothing.
I know one group wanted to apply for that money but couldn't because we hadn't set up a system for paying it out, which was frustrating.
It really should be a major opportunity for this town council to change some of the, or improve some of the opportunities for people who do have accessibility issues. But that group has been around for many years and it's got nowhere. So
I think the addition of of our new councillor may well change that, and as far as I know, this is anecdotal, he would have the time to spend on it. He would need some assistance from our clerk on procedural matters initially, but I get the feeling that if we reconstitute or at least reawaken this group, it'll be very different from the way it had been, and will probably satisfy the objective you wanted from it in the first place.
And even though you'll be wearing the chairs back, I sincerely hope you say exactly what you just said at full council as well.
I will, because it should be able to make a massive difference.
Yeah.
But the only people who can make that difference is the councillors on the working group.
And I know
Sold.
just from on the community bus, the people couldn't believe that we had an accessibility map and that the town council had one, and that it was very well received, and that needs to be added to as new things help. So thank you. So that's going to go to full council to recommend membership. Item 11, bus. Oh, sorry.
But the updates are still going to come in.
Yes, the updates are
Thank
still
you.
going to come to this committee. Agenda item 11, bus shelters. To note, Penwell
Goody.
bus shelter opposite Blueberry's design in workflow and will be received at the next meeting. So noted. To consider the next steps for Couden Beach bus shelter, and this is where, as new chairman and former not a member of this committee, I've got to ask, what Couden Beach bus shelter?
Do you want to reply to that?
I'm happy for you to.
We were responding to a request by a member of the public for
Yes.
a bus shelter at Couden Beach Station, and we've since done some research on that usage of that bus shelter, and it has minimal usage, and therefore we came to the conclusion. Well, I think we've rapidly come to the conclusion that there was little point in us spending money on a bus shelter there.
Thank you. Because my question was going to be that the minutes of the last meeting said to receive a report on the footfall. Sorry, that was the agenda, and then the minutes say we received a report on the footfall. But if you're not on this committee, you don't know what the footfall was. But I know I contributed to say nobody catches the bus down there, but there was some query about school children catching buses. But Councillor Wilson.
I don't believe we've decided whether we would or wouldn't replace that bus stop. I don't remember ever.
Well, this is going to be
so this,
tonight.
This
It's
motion
the next
is,
steps.
Sorry, I thought you said
No, I
council.
said we're rapidly coming to the conclusion.
Well, that was indicative that we haven't
Yeah,
discussed
no,
it.
no.
So this is for the decision tonight through discussion. Are we going to? It's a binary discussion, yes or no.
Yeah.
I will propose, and if somebody wants to second it, that we do not replace the bus stop.
It's been proposed we don't.
Seconded.
Councillor Goss is second. All those in favour, please show.
Move on.
That's carried unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Agenda item C, to consider complete refurbishment of the Town Hall Square bus shelter for the cost of £3,480.84. Again, I suppose I have to say, because I haven't seen anything on this, was this a previous?
I haven't seen it.
Because I haven't seen anything.
Can I pass you over to our operations manager?
Yeah.
Chair, members of council, this has come about because of members of the public complaining that, and indeed members of our council last year complaining that people getting off the bus shelter outside the town hall, it's their first port of call in Bexhill, and it is, to use the term, a tip. We've taken that on board. It is graffitied, it is falling apart. Rother District Council did come to us sometime last year and ask us to replace the perspex because it had been graffitied. We delayed that because at the time East Sussex County Council determined that the whole square was going to be revamped anyway, and so it would have been a waste of our time.
Yeah.
That has now been, according to highways, that has now been put on the back burner. So I've undertaken to get a quote from Shelter Solutions, who have done a number of shelters in the town, to and the figure is there. The reason the figure is at 3,480 and not half of that as it would normally be is because they've done a study, they've done a survey, they have to take the roof of the shelter off, because if you've been down there and you notice there used to be a light fitting in there. Elements have got in there, that is weather elements have got in there, and now the shelter roof is not beyond repair, but if they don't repair it at the time they do the rest of the shelter, the ceiling or the roof will need repairing. So it's a catch.
Yeah.
You either repair it all together, or we don't, and we just get the shelter repaired, and then the roof will fall in, and we have to put a new roof on it anyway. So it's double the price. So it's going to cost, if we go forward with this motion, it's going to cost £3,480 to take the roof off, to make the roof good. If you look at the shelter on the right hand side, there is what used to be an advertising hoarding. That is part and parcel of the structure. They can't do anything about that, but my suggestion would be at further meetings that we again ask our friends from Wave Arts to do something to make it look aesthetically nice. However, the rest of it can be repaired to make that shelter, that bus stop, the point of entry to Bexhill something to look at rather than the state it's in at the moment. However, those are the reasons why it's going to cost £3,500.
Thank you, John. Councillor Goss.
It sounds as though it would be a good one to repair it in the town centre, you say. Is there anything known of footfall using it?
I haven't done a footfall study. I can do one. I can get that from
just to make sure. I mean, I'm sure it probably is more used than certainly one down at Golden Beach.
I do certainly know that it is used by National Express. It's the drop-off and pick-up for National Express
so
coaches.
it could be a good one.
And other coach companies are available.
Yes, they are indeed.
The other thing is, if it's got an advertising hoarding thing there at the moment, could we use that?
We can't, because I've had our electrical chaps go down there and have a look. It's totally dead. National Power have to cut it off. They cut it off years ago because it was a health hazard. We could resurrect it. It would cost more money to do so.
Or could we put a static? Just use it for advertising, either for our stuff or for town events, or let it out.
I'm sure that is something we could look into, using it as an advertising hoarding for, and we could, indeed, I'm assuming we could go forward and lease it out, or as I say, it could just be made to look nice. But that is something I can look at for you.
Because it probably we do need to look at. I'm aware we were talking once about advertisements and how we can possibly make money towards the upkeep of the shelters. Councillor Plym and Councillor Byrne.
I think the initial position would be to actually go ahead with this cost to refurbish it first. Afterwards, we could then see, because we can then see whether it's worth putting advertising in there. It'd probably be minimal advertising, like ourselves, for example, rather than anything else. But don't forget, directly behind it is a notice board, and we've got a third of that notice board that we can utilise ourselves. So whether we want to go down that route or not. One question on the cost: is this a ring fence cost, or do you need us to put a budget of 4,000 or something like that?
We have the money in the budget, in my shelter's budget, to cover this cost totally.
Right.
Good. That stopped my question. What budget?
The only sort of question from Councillor Plym's comment is, if you're going to be refurbished, I don't know I can't envisage what the place is like, but if you're refurbishing a lot of it, is it something that it's easy to add an advertising board on later, or should that be done while you're doing the works?
If I can answer that, Chair. The advertising, if you haven't seen it, Councillor, then you won't know what I'm talking about. The advertising hoarding forms part of the side of the shelter. They can't take that away because it is structurally part of the side and the roof. So they can make it good. They can make and there are holes and bits of metal that need replacing or certainly getting rid of. It will be made to look part of the shelter again. And then we can look at the options of, if we want to go down and advertise as stuff that we want to advertise in it, then that's entirely down to us. I think once we've got it refurbished to a point where it is aesthetically nice to look at and it's a nice shelter, then we can go forward with looking at the hoarding. But it won't be electronic, it won't have lights behind it.
Well, don't forget, Bexhill tends to shut at 8. There won't be everybody to look at them. Councillor Byrne and Councillor Wilson.
I was just going to propose that we go with officer recommendation on this one. You seem to have done the work. I'm happy that what you're proposing is viable, and I like it all. So I propose that we go with officer recommendation that we refurbish to the cost of £3,480.84p.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Absolutely the right thing to do, but we did have a plan to use Wave Arts designers for bus stops. Are we going to do this as an extra one over those 6 that we chose at the previous meeting? Or are we going to replace one of the ones we were going to refurbish via Wave Arts? Because without any shadow of a doubt, and I was very sceptical over the appearance of a Wave Art design on a bus stop, but the one in Sydney that's been done, there's no vandalism at all. So it works. So is Wave Arts going to be incorporated in this? Because then we have to choose a design. Apart from that, I think it's absolutely the right thing to do. It's where a lot of people stop off and get to.
Chair, members of council, excellent. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. As you know, the one in Sidley outside of Lidl has been now, it's a year old now, and it hasn't been touched.
Yeah.
It hasn't been touched because the graffiti, and I use this term loosely, artists who go out there and spray our toilets are also known to the street artists who work at Wave Arts.
Yeah.
And they respect each other to a degree. But when Wave Arts put a mural together, the street artists leave it alone, and the graffiti artists leave it alone. And on that subject, if I may just put to you the shelter at the station end of Endwell Road, which has just been refurbished the last 4 months, that is due to be painted because you've decided on the locomotive motif.
Yeah.
That starts on the 11th of July, will be completed in 2 days. So that's another one we've got. And I do believe, Councillor Wilson, although I'm not sure, when this was first put to council to use Wave Arts, I think the town centre bus shelter was in that.
Okay.
It may have been in that list, because I put it forward as being one that we probably needed to do something with. And then it's got progressively worse because nothing's happened to it. So the street artists have made it into something.
If it is, carry on and do it. If it isn't, we'll have to come back and add it to the list at a future.
But once again, it's only that horse at the end.
Yeah.
So I had the proposal from Councillor Byrne. Anyone second? Councillor L, thank you. All those in favour, please show. It's unanimous. Thank you.
You can do a runner with £3,000 now.
Agenda item 12, highway matters. To note updates following strengthening relationships. That's SLR meeting. Councillor Goss, you.
I wasn't there.
No.
They moved it to when I was away, I'm afraid. So.
But we got the update.
Like me.
Anyone want to make any comments over the update that we got from it? Councillor Flynn.
No further comments other than the notes that are on there. It's all work that's in progress. Yeah. Unfortunately, our residents are wanting things acted on far quicker than the Highways Department are able to implement. And so there's a considerable level of frustration. It's also incredibly frustrating that they will only meet us twice a year. And that's exactly the same amount of time they meet with the smaller parishes. We have got so many more roads to which we could, with issues that we need to discuss with them. But it is what it is, 2 meetings a year.
Would there be any mileage in us asking as a bigger town?
I believe we have.
We have, and they said no. Councillor Wilson was just going to tell me we did, and they said no.
There are 4 other opportunities to lobby this organisation because they go to route for their quarterly meetings and they are always there as meeting all the other parishes. So we've got Councillor Sang, Councillor Jacklin on there. So if whoever's on the SRR meeting, if they want to lobby Councillor Jacklin and Councillor Sang, they can raise it at route. And then you'll get more influence and persuasion from everyone else. But I agree with Councillor Pym that twice a year isn't enough. Yeah. But you have to go through the lobbying process to get further engagement. The man who's running this contract lives in Bexhill. He's got a personal interest in that, so let's use that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, so that's noted. And then Consider exploring options for a safely crossing at Turkey Road. And this is the letter we have from East Sussex Councillor Assad. To consider exploring the options. Very open, of course.
It's
Councillor Garson.
slightly intriguing. It's coming from an East Sussex councillor, and East Sussex Council are responsible for highways and this sort of thing, aren't they? By the looks of it, they want to pass it on to us to spend £500,000 on 3 crossings.
One crossing.
No, they've asked for 3.
No, one crossing.
I only thought there was the one crossing at Turkey Road up near the school.
No.
It's just beyond the junction of All Saints Lane,
Yeah.
between All Saints Lane and
The school and the surgery.
surgery. It's an area that's been discussed with the school and local community for some time. It seems to be that all 3 tiers of local government want something to be done, but the mechanics and the finances of it all are not all in one place. And so if we could find out how much county are going to put towards this, how much district are going to put towards this while they're still here, and indeed county, and how much we can put towards it, we might be able to get somewhere with it. But as I said before, the last subject, the Highways Department act very, very slow. So this isn't going to be one that will be done within a year or so. It'll probably drag on for a couple of years at least, but it has done so far.
And I noticed Councillor Assad talks about East Sussex and Town Council and doesn't mention Rother, but I like the idea that it could be a 3-way split if. But I know Councillor Assad wrote on this, but presumably it has been a matter of public. Do we know public concern up there? I think it's because of the school, isn't it? It's not helped by the cars coming round the roundabout up there, is it? Councillor Wilson.
There's 2 issues there. One is that the school want to close All Saints Street outside the school for 40 minutes, and East Sussex County Council won't let them. Councillor Azad has been working tirelessly on that for at least 4 years that I'm aware of, and isn't getting anywhere purely because of cash. And now they've extended it to wanting a crossing, which personally I'm not sure it's in the right place, because there's traffic parked all the way down there, which is an extension of the childcare organisation and the school. So if they can't park there, they're going to cause another issue. And as I often say, one action creates a reaction. And all he's asking for is for us to support this requirement. We can quite straightforwardly say, without getting involved in any money, that this town council supports the requirement to have a review of the crossing facilities in that area. We don't have to commit to anything. It's not something that a town council would normally provide, and I wouldn't support this sort of finances. And a 3-way split would be even harder, because if it went wrong, whose responsibility would it be? So I would like to suggest that this town council, I can take it to a motion if you want, supports the idea of a crossing, we vote on it, and that's it. Because they're not asking directly for us to pay any money, they're just asking for the support of. I couldn't see anywhere in here, yes, there's some indicative costs, but they haven't actually physically asked for us to contribute. And councillors are just asking for us to support it. Yes, there is a need for something to be done, but we're not experts in pedestrian crossings, and it will cause other issues, I can assure you.
We're just being asked to consider exploring.
Yes.
But he does say, I implore the Town Council to explore and secure all avenues of funding for the direct council allocation, corporation housing developer or external grants to install it in these locations. And he does mention 3 locations. Lack of crossings in city medical practice, where vulnerable individuals need to cross, near Dragonfly's nursery, where very young children and parents navigate the road, and by All Saints C of E Primary School with a high volume of children crossing.
I think that's all one location.
Parties
Yeah.
that
Yes.
are going to be affected by
3 users.
Well, he's
One.
put it in the plural.
Well, that it is
and
councillor Azad, yes.
Each one has a semicolon after it, so the 3 individual ones. It's all,
Yeah.
it reads that way.
But we are only being asked to consider exploring options.
Yeah.
To consider exploring options. Do we think exploring options is a good idea?
There's the crossing on the main road, which is a pelican crossing, I believe. People are always nearly getting run over on that crossing, and there's been local issues there for a long, long time, but it still does what people do if drivers drive appropriately, the same as the other 2 roads.
But
So-
it's worthy of consideration, isn't
It
it?
is, but they're not actually...
He's not asking, our agenda is not asking
Yeah.
us to do anything else. This is, but this isn't on our agenda.
He says explore and secure. We're saying explore.
Yeah. Our agenda says explore. I would happily explore.
Moving that.
I move that
Consider explore.
item
operations for
12,
safer
item 12,
B.
item 12, section B. We consider.
Can I
crossing. Yes.
make an amendment? to
Yeah.
that? Because I think we don't want to be the people that are considering it. So I think we should say we will assist considering,
Yeah.
because it will be the East Sussex that will do the considering. Otherwise, our officers will be
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely
tied
right.
up with looking at
Yeah.
something that
Yes, yes.
East Sussex are probably doing already.
Well,
So-
and even if our officers did War and Peace on it, it's East Sussex's baby.
Exactly.
Who can they can go,
Yeah.
no.
So the simple thing is that we support
Support.
the requirement
Yeah.
for this,
Yeah.
and leave it at that, because
I mean,
East Sussex are only going to do something if
Yeah.
East Sussex do the work, and they're not going to do the work because they haven't got any money, and it goes round and round in a vicious circle.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they
Support.
talk about
Support. You're
going
right.
to
Support
develop-
Yeah.
developers.
Absolutely.
Consider.
Yes.
They talk of going to developers and that sort of thing, which,
Yeah.
I mean, they get, well, they and RDC get Section 106 and the SIL monies. That should have been covered in those, if there are developments with it.
I don't know how highways do that. Highways funding is, I
Weird.
think it seems to be a dark
Um,
art.
But in fact, I like, how do we show that support?
That's
Other than
that whole
sitting here and
department.
going, yes, we support it.
I think,
Because that leaves Councillor Sack going,
no, I think Councillor Byrne was correct, and if we can look at the word in there and just replace consider with support exploring options of safer crossing at Turkey Road, I think that will make a brilliant
If you want to
motion that we
move
can
that,
support.
if you want to move that,
Do you want to do it or shall I do it?
you can do it.
Okay.
Sure
Well, I
would.
would like this council to support exploring options for safer crossing at Turkey Road.
Seconded.
seconded.
As I
Councillor
said that
Wilson.
10 minutes ago, I've
Oh, okay. You look like you were going to say something, so all those in favour, please show.
All those in favour. All those in favour, lads, get your hands up.
Thank you, unanimous. Thank you. Item 13, to receive an update report on the town rangers. The recruitment document. I just had a few queries about the dates, but I suspect they're just typos.
I presume that they have now been selected and employed, or offered employment.
It's in the
All I
appendix.
would say is when they are, can they, presumably to full council, sort of come and do an introductory thing and introduce who they are, so we might know them.
So the timeline, because it had interviews 23rd of June and then second interviews the week before, and then job offers. So we've got to the job offers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got the
So
jobs.
it was just okay. And the potential start date is still viable, 1st of September. We're still in that. Right. Okay. And then I think we've got that in to discuss the first area of priority. This could be a bun fight, couldn't it? So we note that report. and we'll do the bid on who wants to know. Did we have other areas that had already come up anyway that was behind very much the recruitment? I'm trying to think, other than graffiti and stuff like that. But Councillor Wilson and Councillor Flynn.
Before we get to the bun fight,
Yeah.
is it possible that we could have the officers contact East Sussex County Council and Rotherham District Council to give us permission to go onto their property if necessary to tidy up areas? Because if we go around all the wards,
Yeah.
the majority of things that need tidying don't belong to Bexhill Town Council. I don't believe we've asked permission from the other authoritative governments in this area, whether this is what we're going to do, we're starting this from the 1st of September, can you give us permission? Because otherwise each job that comes in, the officers are going to have to again go to East Sussex and say, well, do you mind to do that, do you mind to do that? Because it's not ours to fix. Same as British Telecoms with all the phone boxes that have had stuff on them, anything in the street scenes, we're going to have to ask permission before we touch it. Otherwise, the owners of that are going to come back to us and we're going to get ourselves in trouble. So, because we've got 2 months, that gives us time. Yes, we can do the planning, but we've got to do the work before to make sure we don't get in trouble, I think. I'm just flagging that as something we should do.
And trying to think of what other, you covered the roadside, what other roadside property owners we might have to talk
Broadband
about.
companies, telephone companies,
The green boxes.
lamp posts.
Councillor Plym and Councillor Al.
Take Councillor Wilson's point, because each one of these other authorities has a schedule of works, and there's no point in sending our people down there to rectify an area that a couple of days later another authority is going to be going down there. So we need to dovetail. It's quite obvious that the length of time that the other authorities are taking to rectify areas around the town is far too long, and therefore they would probably be only too pleased to have another team of people actually going in there before they can get to do that. So I take that point on. And
so should we be seeking not only permission but a
contribution?
No, well, contribution.
That's what I was thinking of.
But no, I'm just thinking, they say yes, but to avoid what Councillor Plym just said, yes, of course you can repair that, you can, and then, actually we're going to do that ourselves in 2 weeks' time. So it's find out from them as well somehow.
Find out if they've got a schedule of works that we can work
with
to.
permission and joint.
It's probably been done already.
Sorry.
But
kick me if you've got something to say.
Going back to the point about where the bun fight starts, it did start the last meeting because I did ask if the town rangers could work on London Road initially. So I'll put that one in there again.
So you weren't after a quick fix?
But I was told then it was responsibility of the managing staff managing staff workloads is delegated to the town clerk.
It's operational.
And so therefore,
but open to suggestions.
It was there, London Road. So
I can't
flag up London Road.
L, but you wanted to update us with, yes, I've done that already.
There was I just wanted to say all of that about asking permission. We'll sort all that.
Yeah, I think that's really important to recognise as well, because otherwise we'll be treading on toes, and I've been flogging the collaborative working, and we can mess all that collaboration up just because we're here and we have to do the right thing.
That's right.
It does strike me that if these people have the responsibility but they can't discharge it, they'll be getting stick from somewhere, and they'll have a budget for doing that. So I think it's worth an ask. That I can think some authorities would be only too pleased to be able to say, in their organisation, we are discharging this responsibility because we have an arrangement with Bexhill Town Council.
I think that's probably once they've established, but I like the idea of sending them a bill, actually not asking them.
Chair, members of council, yes, as Town Clerk has already said, the collective we, are on top of this.
Excellent.
What we've got to be mindful of is that anything on the A259 which belongs to national highways we do not touch and we will not touch. anything on any other roads, A roads, B roads, which belong to East Sussex Highways. East Sussex Highways own both sides of the road up to 2 metres from the curb side. East Sussex Highways are very much on our side. I know, and I've spoken to a lot of them, and we're steadily getting to the point where I'm speaking to one person. And yes, indeed, Councillor, they are very happy, although they're not going to say that, they're very happy for us to go and do bits and pieces. But before I go anywhere with this, I'm going to make sure I have all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted, so there's no comeback on us, the county officers, or the council. Make sure we've done our homework. Softly, softly, catch your monkey. So we're not going to go running into this on the 1st of September when they're doing the... It's going to take me a week anyway for the induction of the Rangers. And then we're going to go out and look at specific places, and then that's where I would encourage you, the councillors, to come to me or to us and say, right, what about? And we can put it in logical order, we can put it in square order of the whole of our big town area, and then work on that basis.
We could wish for nothing better.
Thank you. Councillor Allen.
So I believe when we first implemented the Rangers, or the idea came about, for example, verge cuts, we're doing the third one, aren't we, of the year? It's down to us. So the idea was the Rangers could do something like the verge cuts. What if it then needed a fourth verge cut, for example, which isn't on anyone's list? Are we able to then go in and do the fourth one as well? The second idea I had, which was one of the other ideas I had when I actually put the motion of Rangers through, is using our Rangers, if they have got nothing to do, which I'm sure they have plenty to do, but if there's any extra jobs that any of the other tiers of governments have to do in Bexhill, we could use them to do it and use them as an asset, get money back from that if necessary, rather than them having to look for people to do those jobs. They're already there, they come straight to us. And thirdly, it was an idea which I thought was going ahead, I'm not sure if we've looked into it, but either an app or a button that we can have on our website to report the work that needs to be done by the public as well. Obviously it won't be a set thing if they said it doesn't have to be done, it might not be able to be done by us. But like you've got the reporting of roadworks as an app, something similar to that, so we can gather these ideas and gather information of what needs to be done around town.
Or possibly see if we can use the information that goes to Fix My Street that doesn't apply to anyone else. Or Councillor Wilson.
We've got something called social media and 29,000 residents.
Yeah.
We could just, because if we're confident they're going to be ready around about the 8th,
Yeah.
why not just put it out there now and say, tell us what you want tidying up. Give them the opportunity to come to us, because I could list 3 things now, because I've written down 3 things, but I don't know whether residents are really that interested in that. And we should be, and that bizarrely goes through the engagement and communications committee rather than this committee.
I like the idea of a bum fight between 6 of us. A bum fight between 29,000 is a bit harder. Councillor Byrne and Councillor Plym.
Thank you, Chair. The problem with that is it's two-way communication. We will immediately get the I've reported this 4 and 5 times and you haven't done anything about it, whereas the Fix My Street type option that Councillor L was referring to really is you report it and any follow-up is from the authority back to, you know, getting it done. So, and there's plenty of people who moan about the Fix My Street. Yes, I asked them, but nothing's been done. But I just feel it will open up a can of worms if we put it onto something like Snapchat or Facebook. So a Fix My Street type app, again, it will be a cost and a resource cost to that. But that would be a wonderful way of doing it. I was going to go on to say that because we're straying really into operational matters, I think an initial paper back to this committee showing us essentially what you intend to do with the Rangers, what you think is their initial high priorities, what are the things you are going to do, what are the things that would be nice to do. It would enable us then to be more constructive and more realistic about what we ask for. But again, I don't want to put extra work on you.
That's absolutely fine.
But a
Initially,
sort of ranger strategy or a ranger operational document would be really good as a starting point for the bum fight.
I'm already in the process of writing out, from my personal point of view, what I want my rangers to be doing, and I've got to make a strategy. I've got to make a plan. There's no point in going forward without a plan of sorts.
Yep.
But, and this is where, with respect to Councillor Wilson, if we put it out there to the public that we can mend anything instantly, I know what's going to happen. It's going to be fill the potholes.
Yeah.
Sort out
Yeah.
the pavements, and we've got to be careful because we can't,
Yeah.
we won't, and we're never going to. So, well, one day maybe when we take over the whole empire, but you know.
Let's start small.
Yeah, let's walk before we start running into something, and then we get ourselves into all sorts of mayhem. But yes, I am putting together a plan, and absolutely present it to council in due course.
Just before I come to Councillor Plym picking up, because I know you said London Road.
The officer was eloquently put
right.
what the point
I was going to
was.
say, it's not just areas, it might be that a particular subject like graffiti removal is the thing rather than the road. So it's topics as well as locations.
Yes, that's what.
You know, you might have
I'm sure that the
in the middle of
operational
October
plan
just
will
to
have a
pause.
level of detail
Yeah.
we'll find useful, and we will maybe comment on it to say, can you add to it a paragraph on this or a paragraph on that? But let's start off with the officer recommendation on deployment of rangers
Yeah.
and first first priority tasks.
So that's
Can I just confirm?
Yes.
Is it a requirement that councillors should email suggestions in?
I was just going to clarify that last bit
Because
about
it says here
to consider areas of priority.
for town rangers. So is that the requirement that would you like this committee to come up with sort of 3 or 4 things?
But we've also just sort of asked, produce one
Yeah.
that we can influence. Yeah.
Because if an officer goes and produces something, it might not be what the strategy of the councillors
Yeah.
want, would like. And we're only a representation of full council. So other councils might have different...
And we haven't got a meeting before their
We
operation.
won't solve all of the
No.
issues between now and March, so we could start with councillors here giving suggestions, allow the operations manager to go and build a process, and then it could evolve from there.
Yeah.
maybe.
I'd like to see the start point with the officers
Okay.
Yeah, but
because it's operational.
first, we don't
And,
interfere with.
and that will also get rid of this endless, yes, we agree with you councillors, we'd love to do this, but here's where we can't, and we don't need to go through that again and again and again. Let's look at the initial offering.
And yet again, our clerk is going to stop us in that ever-decreasing circle. Joe?
So the reason I wanted to talk to you guys about this tonight is because obviously, other than things that we've picked up on in the hub, our main bit of insight on what needs fixing or repairing or refurbishing is from residents coming into the hub.
Yeah.
A lot of residents can't get to the hub
Yeah.
because they live in further areas or they can't travel, they don't have the time, in which case they would likely go to you guys. So it was just, if at any point you'd had a resident come up to you and say, oh, can you look at this, weeding this area? You could report it back. You can just email and say, oh, this needs looking at. That's fine as well. But it was just in case you guys had had anything before this meeting that you'd received from residents that you thought, oh, I'll raise that. Just thought I'd give you the opportunity.
So we've got London Road from
underlines
Councillor
Councillor L's
And
point on
Councillor, I
that.
was just going to say a whole of Devonshire. No, that's all.
So, for example, I had a resident tell me about the end of Glyne Ascent coming onto the main road. When you look left and right, I can't remember now whether it's the left or the right, the bushes stop you from seeing out onto the road.
Yeah, I've got similar with West Common Road coming out onto... West Common Road coming out onto... Oh, Little Common Road.
Glyne
For those bushes there block a view.
I would support Councillor Plym because London Road is the entrance. If we're going to do the bus stop in Devonshire Square, They'll come up with buses up London Road, they'll see a lovely bus stop, and they'll see all the weeds under those great big placards, which hasn't been touched since the previous administration had a day there weeding it. It's not been touched since, and they're 2 foot high. So, and that's right at your front door of the town.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Just on that one, that may stretch into the realms of being attached to the A259, but we sought permission beforehand and were told we'd get on and do it because they weren't really particularly bothered. And
if
so
you started from the round,
it might cause a problem. But if we can just, that's a geographical theme, would be London Road. But obviously there's thematical themes, so to
like
speak,
weeds,
like weeds and whatnot. But that would be a really good one to actually say London Road, it's the main thoroughfare into the town, and people won't notice a difference quickly.
I think, Chair, members of council, I think we need to be proactive and we need to be out there and to be seen initially, as you said, Councillor Pym, quite rightly. And that will then reinforce the fact that we are doing something. But going back to Councillor Elf, I don't know that particular piece of land you're talking about, but what I can say and what I will say now, being married to a East Sussex Highways traffic and safety officer, we will not ever be allowed to work on the roadway or use our van on the roadway or anywhere near the roadway unless we have specific training and we have the right traffic safety management in place at every time. And to get that, I can tell you now, as I'm working on a project at the moment, it has taken me nearly 4 weeks just to get a licence to move a sign. So that sort of thing, what you've got to bear in mind, Council, is that whereas we can go out and work miracles on a lot of the places, we have got to be very careful about working near to the highway or on the highway, because we don't have the authority and we won't have the authority to do that. And if anything should happen, then, well, where does the buck stop here? So just something to be wary of, mindful of. We can look at any situation and we can just say, no, because we now know the legislation, we now know where our rules and regulations are and our remit.
And that exactly shows why operations officers and councillors don't get involved in operational stuff.
Correct.
Because we rely on you doing your stuff properly.
And we will do our best.
Yeah. Thank you.
One last question.
Yes.
With the Rangers. Would it be possible for them to have, I'm sure they will do, but some sort of leaflet, flyer, cards on them in the van? Because they will get stopped while they're working in public.
Yeah.
Public will be asking them, how can we get through to someone? Just something simple.
I suspect the clerk's going to say we've already thought about that and it's being done. Thank you. 14 motions from councillors, there are none. 15. First one is correspondence in about requesting a bus shelter in Bexhill Lane. That was sent out on a separate email, just a handwritten note, if anyone. Right.
I've only driven down there on Google, but looking at it, I'm sure it's a good thing to have. I'm not sure how you would position it, because outside number 33, the area or the tarmac area that extends to the road for getting on the buses, it looks to be about 2 metres wide and 1 metre deep, sort of thing. And it comes off tarmac at the back where you've got grassy strips on the front, it'd be behind the curve. Quite how would I, and the other thing was, the resident in number 33, do they know somebody's asked them to stick a flipping grey bus shelter outside their house?
Good question. Councillor Plym.
The request is to consider investigating installation.
Yeah.
Can I ask the staff to consider investigating and find out whether it is possible? Because we won't know. And also, whilst you are investigating the one that's been asked for, I noticed the county councillor here has said that there are 4 bus stops in Bexhill.
Numbers 11,
None have
33,
shelters.
77 and 129.
Yeah, and so if it's possible, the costing of 1 bus stop, see how 4, and we can get all 4 done for the.
But then also how you've arrived at that one and not one of the other 3.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because there might be one
I mean,
might be more.
It's almost, I'll come to you in a minute, it's almost that because we've taken over responsibility for shelters, that's existing shelters, and we've now already had one for Coombe Beach, we're going to be asked for shelters, aren't we? We almost need a running list that we create ourselves and we tick off in order of priority, because this would also need footfall, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Councillor Wilson.
Can I word this? I find it disappointing that as soon as we take responsibility, a district councillor who was responsible asked the town council for a bus stop. In the investigation, can we ask whether he's asked the district council previously?
Or
Because if it's been turned down once, why would we do it again?
So if someone's previously done the work,
money, probably.
But if you've been told once, and now you're not going to do it, for whatever reason, then why do we
I'm not sure if we could. I'm not sure if we can find that out.
part of your investigations.
But is it agreed then that we consider investigating this installation or not?
Yes. Yep, I'll pass a motion. I think we should consider investigating this
I'll second that.
installation. At the same time, the other 3 that are, and whether on Councillor Wilson's
Advice.
point there, whether it's been refused before, and if so, why.
Yeah.
I think I've got that worded.
Yeah, well, it might have been refused on grounds that the pavement's not big enough, or whatever.
Let's find out.
Did you say you second that? Councillor Bryce second. Councillor L. All those in favour, please show. Unanimity has broken out again.
Another one back.
I wish I could say that word.
Bloody hell.
Right.
What happened to squabbling?
15B. To consider request for a grit bin at the junction of Singleton Walk and Martin's Way.
Reiterating my non-pecuniary interests, and I've chosen to leave the room while we debate.
Okay.
Somebody could invite me back in. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got time for this one.
What's this? Oh, I printed it out. I've got it printed out somewhere. My opening comment was I didn't think we had anything to do with grit bins, and that's...
We've provided others.
Have we?
Yeah.
See what happens when you start getting involved. Carry on, sorry. I found it now. I found it. And is this a grit? Does this committee hold the grit bin budget?
I'm not sure what committee held it.
Say that a bit quicker, could you?
Yeah. How many grit bins are there in a grit bin budget? It's a grit bin budget.
Can I, in the interest of being cost effective, and we've asked the officers to consider investigating installation of a bus stop. This is in the same area. Could we ask the officers to consider the placing a grit bin in this area, but come back to us at the same time as they go around with the bus stops?
It seemed reasonable. It's on a hill, hilly road, and that junction is about a quarter of the way up it, and there is a big green area next to it. So it's one that logistically shouldn't be a problem.
Shouldn't be a problem, but I suppose my concern is, yes, I should know we had a grit bin budget and we were responsible for grit bins, but so the public are spreading the grit.
Yes.
Okay.
Chair, if I may, members of council, we had a similar incident, haven't we? That has been going on now for a year and has just been resolved about putting in a grit bin. East Sussex Highways obviously own the footway. East Sussex Highways will have to do an evaluation. East Sussex Highways will then provide the grit bin, providing we fill in the right forms and pay for it. East Sussex Highways will not fill the grip bin. It's down to the local populace to fill it and use it accordingly. So it is doable, but if you take on the time scale that I've just given you, it's a year and it's only just come to fruition. We can make investigation and inquiries for you and come back with an answer.
So would we be looking to change this instead of to consider request to investigate
Yes.
the request? I'll move that then. And I'll
second it.
Thank you. Second by.
All those in favour?
One moment. One moment.
Okay,
Sorry.
done.
All right with that?
It's like, yeah,
Yeah, okay. All those in favour? Yeah. Go and tell him to come back in.
Yes, can someone go and find the mayor?
Thanks, Mike.
Oh, he was listening.
That's not fair. He's not allowed to do that.
Just to update you, Councillor Wilson, we are investigating the matter. 16, there were no questions from the last meeting. B, to receive any questions and future agendas for this meeting, please. Councillor
I can't
Byrne.
remember where. Sorry.
No, you're after you, Alan.
I can't remember where we talked about this before, but I wanted to put a proposal for the meetings of this committee to be made monthly rather than 2 monthly. As it happens with August, it's 3 monthly, which is too big a gap, I feel, personally.
Thank you. Councillor Byrne.
Because we've been looking in rather at the devolution of the toilets, and they're going to be taken on by various businesses, question has been raised: what happens if, when those leases are let, what happens if that business then folds? And I think we need to have a strategy, or at least some procedure. What would happen in that case? Would we, do we ask rather, is there a protocol that says we get first dibs on it if it folds, or do they go out to other commercial interests? Would we want them? I just feel that all the work has been done to get to this point. No one said, what happens if this doesn't work? And I feel we should be prepared, but I'm not certain in what way we should prepare. But I think we should talk to Rother, if we could
I'm expecting one of my
open a
I
dialogue.
left to update this, because part of that is surely what happens to that when Rothers has ceased to exist.
Yeah.
Who becomes the lessor? At least now I know.
Yeah, but it's not. It's by no means. This is a whole new game, and I just think, first of all, I mean, Councillor Clem may have the answer, but I think we need some sort of indication from Rother as to what they are then going to do. Do they take them back and we're not part of it at all? Do we get another offer? What?
Councillor Clem.
Yeah, you're at the meeting that we had with Rother a couple of weeks ago, and they expressed their interests and their position at that meeting, and they also expressed that we should not be devolving any information regarding that at this present moment.
Okay.
Correct, and I'm not. I'm merely saying that they are doing due diligence on the companies that have expressed an interest and are currently being considered as lessees. I think it behoves us to look into the future and say, what would we do if one of these lessees were to seek to give up the lease? So no more than that. If Rother want to say that's still all our business,
Yeah.
fine. But I'd like that question to be asked on behalf of this council.
Yeah. So we need to know Plan B, even if we don't. Not for public consumption.
We should also remember that we're only committed to the cleaning until the end of September, and it's likely that the leases and planning commissions and everything else for the other toilets will be done by September. So that will be for full council in the September full council
Yeah.
meeting to decide what the next stage of it is.
I'm thinking
Or should
way
it be
down the
for
road.
full council
I
in
agree with
July?
Councillor Byrne. It is a risk because if the statistics are right that 3/4 of all businesses fail in the first year,
Yes.
the 8 that have potential leases will have at least 6 that will fail. And that will be 6 toilets then potentially could be closed.
But should that be going to full council for July?
I think it
Is
needs some,
September too late?
I think it needs some thought,
Yeah.
and probably it might even need a working group to go and
Yeah.
do some stuff
Yeah.
behind
I think we need to open a dialogue, because I think Rother will equally realise that now they've got step 1 out of the way, it is time for them to look at stage 2 and, you know, what do they do? They may have an already off the shelf strategy saying, thought of that, here's what happens if one of the businesses goes bust, and we may have no part in it.
Oh, I love your faith, Councillor Byrne.
Sorry, can I ask for a bit of clarification on what I'm asking? Or what you're asking?
You're
Just a bit of wording.
I think you're asking Rother what their actions will be if one of the lessees goes broke and returns the lease to Rother.
Yeah.
Is there an implication, or is there any action required from the town council, or are we going to be part of that discussion in any way? Sorry about the scruffy wording. I'm sure you can tidy it up.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Byrne.
It's all to do with freeholds.
Oh, well, let's not go there. Let's not go there, please. If we'd have done that 2 years ago, we wouldn't have this problem.
I'm not sure it is, because it's in best value rather than freeholds. And if a business fails, it shows that no other business may not succeed there.
It may show that.
It may show that, but it certainly reduces the potential value of it, which then opens the door to another decision being made. And I'm being mindful of choosing words. We don't know, so I'm not sure it is attached to the freehold, but it is attached to best value, which rather do have an implication.
I think the implication is, in the meantime, where does that freehold sit?
Yeah.
More importantly,
Where's
it's
the lease
protection.
Not the freehold store remains with Rother.
They won't be there.
And to count.
Oh, forget that. That's yet another. We know the freehold will go upwards to.
Just to take Councillor
Yeah.
Wilson's point there, which is an important point, is it's not about the business for us, it's about the toilet.
Yeah.
The toilet that business is supposed to be running.
Which is
Yes.
what residents want us to do, is to
Yeah.
provide services and protect them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the question should be around protecting the service.
Service,
Nothing to
rather
do with
than the
freehold,
business.
leasehold, or business.
Correct.
Anything.
Correct.
It's
Yeah.
service protection.
Continuation
So
of
it's almost that
service
question, what would
if something
happen to
goes
the
bust.
toilet if the business fails.
Yes,
Toilet.
that's it. It's continuation of service provision.
Is
Ooh, I
there,
like that.
That sounds good.
That was a good one. You read that somewhere.
is there a requirement for the toilet access to be from outside any other business?
That's in. That's already in the lease.
That's what it is.
That's in the
In
Rother
which case we
terms
can
and conditions and all of
license
that.
the toilet as we do with others and keep that going. But that's for
Any
when
other-
that happens.
Yeah.
Questions for to be done at the next meeting or for future agenda items?
I would just like to support Councillor Goss's question that when you look at amenities committees a year ago, they would be finished in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
This meeting's gone on for an hour and 40 minutes. So there's a lot more to talk about. There's a lot more going on, which substantiates the potential of having meetings more often,
Yeah.
subject to the calendar.
Is that a critique of my first attempt at chair? Councillor Wilson?
It shows how much is going on and how much great stuff the town council want to do.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
this is what we're trying to make happen.
Yes, and to wait till October to get answers to those questions is pretty silly. Okie dokie. Agenda item 17, Bexhill Wild Doomsday Project. To receive the end of year 2 report.
Received.
Received? Yeah. And then to consider a request from David Dennis to represent the Town Council at Crowhurst Parish Council meeting. That came in some time ago, didn't it? Don't know I'm seeing it on this one.
See.
And then, I'm vaguely again. Can you help us with that request, please?
I will have another look. Sorry, bear with. I can read you guys the email.
Yep.
As a result of discussion at yesterday's Coombe Valley Countryside Park stakeholder meeting at the Discovery Centre, I was asked by Crowhurst Parish Council to address them at their next meeting concerning the contents of paragraph 4 of my Year 2 report submitted to you yesterday. As you know, there is great concern that someone or someone's pet will become ill because this lake's water is dangerous to humans and animals. The lake is not in Bexhill, but the effect of its mismanagement certainly is. I'm being asked to make a plan to alert everyone and resolve the matter by applying it to the national authorities to connect the Powder Mill stream to the lake to oxygenate it. Since this is within my remit as project manager for the town council, I'm intending to state that I'm representing the town in this matter. Do I have your permission to do this?
How can he represent us if he doesn't know what we think about it?
Yeah, I would say he could go as a recognised
I would say
consultant to this
I would say
council.
attend and report,
Yeah.
not
But
represent.
Not
To
represent.
attend and report to us.
Yeah, it's very unclear as to whether he's going to be asked to give opinion.
Yes.
And by all means, he can follow up on his reports and give a report. But to give opinion, stating that he's representing Bexhill Town Council,
Yeah.
when we haven't been given notification of what he's going to be asked about, and we haven't formed an opinion as a corporate body, it'd be quite difficult. So I don't think he should be representing us as such, but it does depend on the contents of the meeting.
As I say, he could attend and report, but he's got no remit to comment on budgetary expenditure to achieve anything.
Councillor Wilson, I know you've got
He's a
paragraph
project
4 there.
manager. He's a project manager for Bexhill Town Council, therefore he's under a contract with us.
Yes.
He shouldn't go and talk to anyone else. If Crowhurst Parish Council want to offer him a contract to do some work for them, that's up to them between the two parties. He's contracted to us. Crowhurst isn't in Bexhill, so I don't believe he should talk to him.
You don't
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
talk at all. Can we stop him?
Well,
We can stop him representing this
Yeah.
council.
This information is what they used to call intellectual property, which
Yeah.
belongs to Bexhill Town Council. So anything he's got in here, somebody can't actually take and use because it belongs to Bexhill Town Council because it's intellectual property. So, as I understand it, it belongs to us, he belongs to us, and he shouldn't be talking to anyone else. Not that I would have any problem with him talking to anyone, but as Councillor Plim says, he could get embroiled in some questions that are outside of his contract, which would then expose our project manager to some very difficult situations. So I would suggest the preference is not to.
Yeah, I agree.
If they want to pay some money and employ him, then they can do that. But he is under contract to us. Harsh, but that's his fact.
Like it.
Certainly, I mean,
Yeah,
he's looking for quite a lot of work to be done to find funds to.
He always
to-
does.
That's a different.
No, I mean,
This is-
for Crowhurst, to make
Yeah.
this connection, there's a lot of bodies involved.
Yeah.
If you read his report,
Yeah.
and it's going to be pretty expensive. We don't want him committing us to doing that for Crowhurst Lake or whatever it is.
I think he should attend as long as it is to present his report as to what he's been doing for Bexhill Town Council, because it's promotion of us in a good way. However, he's got to be very mindful of any questions he's answering.
if it's actually our report rather than his, because we're only
Yeah.
intellectual property.
Well, yeah, he's representing Bexhill Town Council on this subject, so he can present this report to them.
We can agree that he can present it if necessary, but not go any further.
Otherwise, we're keeping this to ourselves and
Yeah.
putting it in a dusty box, and
Well,
no one gets to see it.
but shouldn't the request have come from Crowhurst Parish Council?
Yes.
If they want a request, could we send our project manager to present his report? Fine. Or at least, I don't know about fine, you may have a different view on that, but I think that's what we should be talking about. It should come from Crowhurst. It shouldn't be David Dennis saying, I ought to talk to Crowhurst about this. It should be Crowhurst asking him. Because quite honestly, if it's my dog might get ill from drinking in a pond, and do the Crowhurst residents want to spend out a lot of money stopping that happening when their dog could get, eat slug pellets or get run over? It's nothing to do with us.
Am I right in saying that this project manager comes under the remit of the town clerk's managerial responsibilities, and therefore
He has a contract.
would you, if we were to agree in attending, would you remind him of his responsibilities under his contract, not to give an opinion other than that of the policy that's already been decided by Bexhill Town Council?
Should the town clerk, I mean, is it better if she speaks to Crowhurst clerk or whatever, says that, do you really want this, and if so, it is under these conditions that we will allow him to attend.
Yeah.
I think the "do you really want it" is the big thing. We need to know whose idea was this. Is David Dennis saying, I need to go
Somebody
and
said
talk
it
to
would
them, in which case they might not really want him, or if they want him, why don't they ask us?
Is Crowhurst Lake entirely within Bexhill or entirely outside?
Entirely in
Bexhill?
Hastings, I think.
Yeah.
Well, that map doesn't really.
No.
No, there's no boundary lines on that.
I look for our
Although the
area
pattern
maps,
stream
I can't
is-
find them on our website.
Is the answer to point B requiring we require further clarification?
See, they
So we've considered it and saying no, we want to know more about it.
I think specifically we can't allow him to speak on behalf of this
Correct.
council.
Correct.
But he is an ecologist, which is why we employed him. And so if Crowhurst Parish Council wanted to come and talk to them about the condition of Crowhurst Lake, that would seem quite logical, that we can't stop him doing that, but he just can't say,
In which case he's
I'll
not
work for
representing.
he's not
Bexhill Town
representing
Correct.
us. But I take your point that rather than us saying yay or nay, we say nay to representing the town council, but Crowhurst Parish Council should be the ones doing the
They
involvement.
should ask him.
But he might have done, but he might have just been, what was that email said he'd been asked by the council or by someone? Or someone at the Kimhaven.
He was asked by the parish council
Right.
to address them at their next meeting concerning the contents of
wow.
paragraph 4.
I
So we
didn't
come
read
back to
that bit
Councillor Wilson's
carefully.
point of the contents of paragraph 4 are ours, intellectually, but if you reworded them, and probably you could already get AI to do it for you, do we want to stop him possibly sending alarm bells to another council that the lake in your area is not?
I think he's not representing. He's presenting the report that he's given to us. He's presenting that to them to do with what they wish.
So I'm going to propose then that we don't stop him as an ecologist talking to Crowhurst, but he does not represent this council while doing so. Anyone second that? Agree with that? Argue with that? come up
I'll
with
second
another
it.
alternative?
I'll second it.
Well, it just says to consider requests to represent the town council, so we just have to say we
No.
decline your
No,
request.
you can't represent the town council.
Yeah.
Yeah. And don't, anything else is nothing to do with us. It's a matter between them and a private individual. Yes. Thank you, Councillor Flynn. Councillor Wilson.
If
before
we go back to 17A's receipt, we have received the end of the year report, and there is a bit of a trend that there's so much in here that isn't actually related to Bexhill. It talks about Hastings, St Leonard's, Crowhurst, Powdner, and I know it all comes from somewhere and leads in here, but it doesn't actually mention very much about Bexhill. It's all the peripheral that ends up here. And I just wonder whether it will be worth reviewing what it says in his contract as to where to go for years.
I think that needs to be brought up in a later agenda item, but for this one,
Okay, yeah,
we're going to go with the proposal that no, he can't represent this council.
yeah,
All those in favour? Thank you.
good debate.
So, agenda item 18, which currently is the date of the next meeting, which is the 1st of October 2025.
That's the
We've forgotten what we will do.
Motions for the next meeting should be in by the 22nd of September. And with that, I declare, do I declare closing the meeting
got
next
right
bit,
there.
or do I close to the public? So, the meeting is now closed to the public and the stream will cease. Thank you.